I know most of you have gotten through your cookies already. All right? Is that working? Yeah, I know. I'm gonna ask just some reports. First of all, Tim, can you give a little report on the upcoming service project?
Yes. So I've been working with Sheriff and Kelly.
Sorry. That way you get recorded.
Everybody on Zoom. Sheriff Kelly and I are heading up the community service for the club this year. And our August or our September service project is working with Martin Luther King Leadership Academy. It's a Grand Rapids public school where the numbers for reading are very low. And so they have a volunteer tutoring program that works with K through 2 students, and they receive tutoring every week. So they can go in and read with a tutor. What we're doing is we're providing the pencil boxes to get the kids ready for going back to school. So every student will receive the same pencil box. And that's why we were really specific about the items that we need donated. We're going to assemble those pencil boxes next Tuesday from 6 to 8 at ABBI. If you can let me know if you plan to come so we can have enough pizza for you. We're going to put all those pencil boxes together. If you can donate, I'd really appreciate that. There's a list that was sent out. There's also a flyer on the table. Obviously, if you didn't bring the donations in today, you can bring them next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock when you come and assemble. If you don't plan on coming to assemble, you can just drop it off at ABBI this week.
Thank you, Tim. Looks like a good project. Even if you can't be there in person, we can use supplies for those kids. Ben, I'm going to ask you to come up. I know you got a mouthful. He's going to give a report about the blind dinner date. Jim had a duck out for a work call.
All right, doing this update spur of the moment, so bear with me. Blind dinner date. Thank you. Blind dinner date is going to be in January this year. We have our speaker, Katie Mauvie, is going to be speaking. She's a water skiing professional with low vision. And we are still looking for sponsors. Any sponsorship would be welcome. If you have companies that you know of that might be interested in sponsoring the event, if you have a company that might be interested in sponsoring the event, please make sure that you reach out. We have a pretty good committee this year. We can always accept more, but we're going along very nicely. And the sponsorship forms are available on I believe, Cheryl, on the website. They should be out there. So if you log in and go under committees to the blind dinner date, you can find a sponsorship form. We also are looking for nominations for awardees. So we're sending those out. I think, Cheryl, you're going to be sending an email with the link to the nomination form. Maybe you haven't seen it yet. Jim sent it to you this morning. So you got your email every 5 minutes.
Get me till 10 after 10 o'clock.
There's an online nomination form that can be used if you have a person who's deserving. We're looking for our 4 major awards and nominees for those awards. So if you have contacts in the low vision community, or if you know someone who would be deserving, please feel free to nominate them with some reasons why, and we'll consider them for an award. That's all I got.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Again, that date is Tuesday night, January 30, and it's at Meyer Garden, so it'll be a nice event. Kudos to the committee for getting this set up nicely ahead of time so we can publicize it to get people there. Katie's a very interesting speaker, visually impaired, but what she's accomplished with overcoming those impairments is amazing. So, tail twister. Jamie, I'm sure you've got a lot to collect today and take over. A lot to do.
Actually, people have been pretty good about bringing their pins. I've looked around, but if anybody doesn't have theirs, great money here. Work.
Or $5.
You don't have to wear that many. Little aside, I think I'm officially taking over for Mike Lund right now. Yeah, because I spilled food on myself today.
Oh.
A little bit of Italian dressing and slippery. Anybody have any happy thoughts?
daughter had a baby.
Boy, girl.
Girl.
What's your name?
Elizabeth Nicole.
Hey, Greg.
Welcome to the club. Yeah, so, my happy buck is we had a good, summer, got to spend a lot of time with, a little more time with our kids, particularly for the first time, we had our grandson for a full week at our house, and then, went great, so that was, good for us. And anybody else with any happy bucks for the summer? Gary?
We got to celebrate, a big birthday for me with all my family at a Cub game, which they won, and, Cheryl putting up with me for 45 years.
Wow. Happy buck for you, maybe not for them.
It was a big buck for me. She didn't put anything in, but that's,
Anybody else have anything going on? Oh, yes. Right here, yes. Yes. If you would introduce your guest.
This is Usman Corona. He is our employment coordinator at ABDI. It's great to have him here with us. He's been with us since March and he's exploring membership with the Lions.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I think that's about it then. Unless we go, and we're going to the Rapids Lounge or not? Yeah.
we're gonna do one more report.
Okay.
I'm asking Ann to give a report on holiday shopping. We're again trying to stay ahead of everything.
Good mark, we're going to pick up,
Well, I asked about when to start this, and because we only have 5 more meetings, I think we need to get started. Don is also the co-chairperson on this committee, and we couldn't do it without him. I couldn't do it without him. But we are starting this. I look around the room, and I think most of you have done it, haven't you? There's been, who has not done holiday shopping? Oh, okay, well then it's your turn to start. But each year on the first Saturday in December, we host a holiday shopping excursion. And it's where the students who qualify are either visually impaired. 35% of these kids are visually impaired. We will have them with us this year, as well as the other 65 are from the base camp, Sabea Ministries. And Myers gives us a gift card based on funding that we request through grant monies that we've increased the request this year so that we can give each child coming from they give us a check of, hopefully if we get it approved, $30 for each gift card, and the Lions supports $95, so it'll be $125. And you just have to come on that Saturday morning, as some of you know. We'll have a continental breakfast to start off with. The kids bring their own list. The teachers work with them as on bringing their shopping list. They can shop not for themselves, but for their families. And they have to meet the criteria of being financially needy, special ed if they qualify, they all pretty much do, and referred by their special teacher consultants. So they wrap gifts, we come back, they have their own transportation. We used to provide all the transportation, as you know, and it got to be overwhelming for all of us. So they provide the transportation to and from. So all you have to do is show up. We really need your support. We're expecting 50 kids. Last year we had 36 or 38. What do we have? 30 something, 38. And we really did not have as many volunteers, but we were happy to have those that came. So some of you had, 2 or 3 kids with you. If you haven't brought your family, Tom Murphy's a great, being a new-time grandfather, it kind of transitions down the road, and we encourage you to bring your daughters, your sons, whatever, and they are great assistants for you. So I'll pass around the list. I'm also going to pass around a 1 sheet that explains it a little bit more in detail. Okay,
Thank you.
It's sliding.
It'll be okay.
Okay. All right.
So Tom, we're still looking forward to Erin being there. She's gonna have to have the baby on the backpack.
Yeah. That
All right,
works.
let's do the wrap.
Anything work?
Right all out.
Okay. Raffle time.
Yeah. Okay.
Put in the wrong.
Oh, has everybody put their tickets in? I think I've had that happen before. Okay, we're gonna be drawing 2 tickets. Usman, I was looking at your name tag and I couldn't tell.
Yeah, if you can, reach it at the top here. and grab one ticket. Okay, perfect.
That's where it is, 4241.
That's for $5.
That's why I'm standing right here.
Well, that seems a little questionable, but.
I'm glad I didn't draw.
Yeah, and the second ticket gets half if they pull the chip out of the bag. So one more time, if you can the time. Takes 3 of us now.
Jeff is the winner. How'd you get that all on one ticket? 4236.
What? 4236?
That's the ticket. Didn't sell enough. Sometimes you're just a lucky guy. No, Usman is his favorite. You're gonna stick it twice.
You didn't put the white chip in there.
No, it's right there.
Okay, we'll leave that out today.
You know how to get it. I gotta take a picture of this chip so I can buy one. I'm not putting it in there.
Drop that.
I got some at home if you need them.
Okay, I can't reach up high enough to keep from being able to see.
That's not it. All right. Good.
And
Thank you.
it lives.
Thank you, Jamie. Great job. Well, we got 2 minutes to spare, so Shelley, I would like to have you come up and introduce our great program today. And I already know a lot about her without even having met her before.
You were related.
Yeah.
Relation. Well, we're gonna do something fun, and we're gonna share the microphone.
Okay.
You
Could bend or
can probably hear us too. Harry, can you hear us okay?
Only if you find that microphone right in front of you.
Okay, that's where we were going. We will do a little pass around. How's that?
Okay,
What?
Keith, not Harris.
Okay, I called you Harry. Keith. There you go. Oh, this does sound better. This kind of feels weird, but we can kind of go back and forth and Susan's gonna do most of the speaking, so. We're on Zoom. Say hello. There we are. Thank you all and happy Tuesday, our first Tuesday, and yes, get ready for a lot of great programs this year. Looking forward to seeing what Mark Oberlin has on his list and we'll fill in where he needs. Today, let's start off strong with a heartfelt conversation with Susan Tebos. A formal introduction, writer, speaker, Bible study leader. She and her husband Mike have adopted 3 kids. You'll hear all about them. Family that makes their home in Grand Rapids, an adoption advocate, of course. And the latest book is out. We've been there. There's a little Vanna White action. So I had the blessing of interviewing Susan for her book, but also we took it one step further and brought in 5, well, I'll say adopted kids.
Yeah, they were
from the community.
teenagers, teenagers and young adults, college students.
And had them share a bit of their story, obviously for the microphone. I thought, what a better way to continue getting the word out than to bring you in here. So instead of a dry podium speech, I'll ask 1 or 2 questions, but this is mostly about you. So Susan, glad that you are here, and I'm gonna kind of ask for your opening remarks.
My opening remarks. Okay, I confess, whoever spilled on yourself, I did too. It's on, my dressing is on my sleeve and water on my pants, so so that's always a good connection.
I'll hold it for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's all right. Well, let me see. How do I begin? I feel like I need to teach you something about adoptees a little bit, but I'll get back to that. Let me tell you my backstory first. So I was in business, worked for Amway Corporation out in Ada in marketing and doing the business thing. And I don't know, 10 years in, it was like I said a prayer. I said, God, what do you have next for me? And then I said, and my husband, because I'm married at this time. We got married in our 30s. And I said, what do you have next for us? And, you know, I kind of left it out there. And I didn't realize until later what the power of prayer can do to us, as you know, what you're doing here. And so about 8 months later, I saw an article in the old-fashioned Grand Rapids Press when it was paper, and I loved that, and I missed that. And there was an article on the front cover about someone adopting from Russia. And I was like, Russia? And I didn't even, here in my 30s, I had no idea even about adoption. I felt like in hindsight, I felt sad about that when I thought about it. I had no idea. And then I started going, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the thing God wants to draw us into. So we're on the couch, we're the couch potato, whatever we called us back then. We weren't baby boomers. I forget what we were called. Watching a movie, and I said to my husband, so I'm thinking we're supposed to adopt from Russia. And he said, no, we're not. No. And, but you know, we all react like that. You know, when we first don't know something, we kind of take a break and we go, okay, I just said, I think you want to pray about that. And let's just see where God takes us. And we were growing in our faith. So maybe we were baby Christians at the time, or maybe it was a little bit further along. I don't know, but we were growing in our faith. I really felt drawn to this. And eventually Mike took a mission trip, came back. He says, I'm in. Fast forward, we went 5 times to Russia, to Siberia in 5 years. We netted 3 kids. And who knew? That's what I keep looking back at that and going, where did this come from? I left my job. I became a mom. I was more apt at marketing than I was at being a mom. So here I am being a mom to kids with a lot of needs. And they came one by one. I was just telling Dr. Anderson about our first son who came cross-eyed, and he just clarified something for me. I thought our son, who had laid in a hospital, bundled up like a loaf of bread, like they do in Russia, I thought he went cross-eyed looking at the ceiling, and he softened my heart because I was so thankful to find out that's not the case. I think it's something to do with the muscles or something like that. So I was glad, because I was already worried they were languishing enough, right? Especially sometimes the babies. So that was then, we went through all the therapies. The other kids came in, they hit the ground running. They were toddlers. You think, okay, they'll never remember what happened to them in the past, right? We hear this all the time. Oh, they don't remember when they were little kids. Guess what? They don't remember in their up here, but in their pre-verbal selves and in their body, there's that imprint. And imagine losing your mom or your dad, your mom and your first family. All adoptees, here's the learning point. All adoptees will grieve that loss. There's a loss, and it will surface somewhere in the teen years. Oh God, can you imagine? Here we are raising teenagers, and you've probably raised some yourselves, right? And then you know how they are. They're like, we were just talking about, they don't listen. Maybe 5 years from now, they'll hear our wisdom, but not when they're teens. And I was like, okay, what's going on now? I've got a 16-year-old son the size of a bear coming up, and you know, I'm like, where's this? You know, and all of a sudden, for our 3 kids, this loss started surfacing in different ways. So all the kids who are out there are adopted. And has anybody been adopted here in the room or been connected to adoption, or there's some connections to adoption? You probably know somebody from church or just neighborhood or whatever, but anyhow, I just lost my train of thought. Help me.
I'm gonna move right into, kids are starting to change, they're asking questions, and now, how many years later, you've got a book?
I've got these teens, I'm trying to sort this out, how can I help them? And I realized that they really don't know what's going on with them. They realize they don't know what's going on inside their heads and their hearts, and they're conflicted, and our daughter ended up grieving her loss.
When did you tell them they were adopted?
Right away. She just asked me, when did I tell them? And they knew all along. So I had one book, or my first book was to help families tell their kids their stories. So in the olden days, we didn't tell. Now I came up with this, I think we should tell idea, and wrote a book to help them learn about their stories, embrace that piece of them, because it's a piece of them. It's who they are. And if they don't understand that, well, they'll keep grasping. What is that? What is that thing, that I can't put my finger on? Anyhow, fast forward, this book, in response to my own teens, but also having just listened to a lot of parents saying, what is going on? Because our kids are beautiful. They're miracles. My kids right now they've gone to college. They're working jobs. These people are at Grand Valley. My kids went to Cornerstone University. These kids are amazing, but they have this additional layer that gives them a bit of a hiccup along the way. So the book, what happened is I went around and a couple of years ago, I did firsthand research, and I interviewed adoptees between the ages of 15 and 30 something all around the country. And what I did is I did a collection of their stories. It's kind of a journalistic style. So I interview them and they talk about, hey, I just ask them, what's it like to be a teenager? And how is adoption, your relinquishment, your loss affecting you? And a lot of them were like deer in the headlights. You mean that's what is going on with me? It was kind of like connecting the dots.
With these questions, obviously some had to be via the email, and some were face to face. Were there different conversations?
Like, how did I go about that research? So,
Because if I wasn't facing you, it might be easier for me to type something in an email than to tell you. Some more spears or.
no, we did Panera,
Okay.
tables at the house, front porches. We did Zoom, phone calls.
Were there some that you did not know? Do you
I
know every kid in this book?
No, I didn't know. I do confess, my son is in this book and my daughter is too. So it's kind of neat. Most of them, I should have pulled up one without all my notes on this one. Most of them, were willing to talk and ready to talk. So like if I had a teenager right now who I needed to help them understand what happened to them, a couple things could happen. Number one, they would probably, what do you know, mom? It's the old, oh, you're the mom. And also just that loss piece, it takes time to heal. So I thought, well, maybe they should listen to people who are adopted, their age, who have experienced what they are going through, and can not only tell them, hey, this is kind of common and normal, and it's going to be hard sometimes for some. For others, I have friends, I have acquaintances, I have people in here too, that, you know what, they want to meet their birth family someday. But on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 1, not a 10. It's like I always kind of equate it to like some adoptees can feel like, oh, I have a little, what do you call that? Paper cut to my heart. It's not derailing me. And then there's some who have a knife to the heart. Does that make sense? And so what better than to get the people who know and get it, right? Get them to listen to these people, not me.
Share your tagline.
Which one? Oh, it's called We've Been There, True Stories, Surprising Insights, and Aha Moments for Adopted Teens. So really, have you ever heard of like Chicken Soup for the Soul? It's that series. This is the book they didn't do it. So this is kind of that chicken soup for the adopted teen.
Open your book and share a story.
Oh my goodness.
Not necessarily read it, but go into detail.
Well, what I love about this book is that they were all ready. Again, I said that earlier, but here's one. Here's the gal, Maria. She was from, I want to say Philadelphia. She was adopted from Guatemala, and of course, white family in that case. And she felt so different, but she didn't know how to talk about it, and she felt it affected her self-esteem. So she gave us a list of things that kept her from talking about it. She says, I didn't want to tell my mom stuff. I didn't want to sound hateful. I was too ashamed to express my feelings. My feelings were too hard for me to even put into words. And I didn't know who I was supposed to be. Am I supposed to be Hispanic? Like, you know, and this is what these teens kind of carry with them, and then they don't have someone to kind of process that with. So I guess what I'm saying is there's a loss, and then there's a time for processing, accepting, and going into that healing process. And for some, it can happen quite, you know, simply, and others, again, it can take years. It just depends on personality, temperament, things like that.
What about your daughter?
What about my daughter?
Is she in?
She's in here, and she's under a different name. I think it's because she's from Grand Rapids, you know, and she goes to school, and she just doesn't want in case, right? But I can tell you, if you read this book, her name is Zuri in here, and her real name is Lyra. Secret, secret, yeah. But her Russian name is Valeria, and she goes by the nickname Lyra. That's what they were calling her in the baby home. And there she was, telling around this little blonde beauty, and she was like looking at us like, no, you're not gonna fake me. Oh, but anyhow,
And you remember that?
oh yeah, I was there. Yeah, I remember watching her.
Well, yeah, but like that's
I remember her.
19, 20 years ago.
It was.
You'll never forget that.
You don't forget it. And this is a curious thing, is that I took German in high school and college. So here she toddled off with her caregiver, because she didn't want to really look at us, and she wanted to go in her little crib and take a nap. And I stood there looking at her, and out of the blue, and this is a God thing. This is why this is so much God going on, is that this lady started speaking German to me. And I spoke back to her, and we started talking about my daughter in German. And my husband's, of course, recording everything with the old big heavy camcorder from the olden days.
Yes.
We didn't have cell phones to call anybody, like, what do you do? And, but she's in the book. We did a search for all of our birth families and found 2 out of 3. We found her birth family, and her birth father had died, according to the search. And when she was 15, we talked about it, and she literally physically ran from the information. She ran in her room and dove in her bed. She found out about her mother. There were 2 more girls. I won't go into a lot of it, but then when she found out birth father, that startled her, because I don't think she ever really thought that she might not ever meet these people. And we always tried to encourage, we prayed for them. We always, you know, had we're connecting. We found her sisters in Connecticut when she was 3, just through Facebook groups and stuff, because 2 other ones got adopted over into a family in Connecticut. So she always thought she'd meet a birth father. And in her story, she talks about telling me this, and she says, Mom, he's half of me. She's looking at his veins, or her veins, and she sees half of me. And I'm laying on the ground by this time, you know, trying to just receive all this, you know, and it's so hard. And she ended up, for her own self, by this time she's 17, and she wrote this, I want to call it like an epitaph, and she wrote, you know, to Sergey, her birth father. She had his name, and she wrote that out. And you think, where is this coming from? She's never met him, but he's half of her. This is what our kids think.
Were there pictures involved?
No, not of him. We've been searching for pictures, but she desires that. And yeah, she really struggled with losing again, if you will, you know, not only once, but twice.
Who's this book for?
It's a twofold type of book. It's for people, who have obviously teens, young adults who have been adopted or through the foster care system. Cause there's a lot of foster stories in here too, foster adopt. There's 34 stories total. It's also for parents or any caregiver who takes interest or care for an adopted person, because it gives us insight. All of a sudden, we start reading these stories and we say, oh, so this is a possibility in my scenario with my teenagers. I need to be more present in that. I need to be more mindful and bring up conversation and be able to receive them and receive their hearts when it's hard. So yeah, that's who it's for.
You have a whole discussion guide.
I have discussion guides online at susantebos.com. And yeah,
What other, I don't want to say the word mistakes, but what advice do you give a new parent to be that is on the adoption?
I would say when I prayed that prayer 25 years ago, it changes you. When we're in God's plan and we're on his path, he will use us like he's using all of you. And sometimes we feel we get scattered in this world, but when we are in his will and in his power, he moves and changes us. And I feel like my life, my husband's life, and our children's lives, and the people who are impacted by these books or conversations, this is God's work. I had no idea when I stepped into it. I didn't know I was going to write a book. I'm not a writer. I actually went back to school to learn how to write this book. And God just keeps opening doors and blessing it. And yeah, so those are the big takeaways, I would say, from this book and our story.
25 years later, how easy or hard is it to do? Say God asked you to adopt another child.
Oh, Shelley, she's an art.
Or Rick, maybe he's talking to Rick.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say we're gonna have to adopt. Yes.
I mean, does one, I mean,
Sure he did.
think, I mean, oh, yeah, the Bears. I mean, we seem to have a lot of talk about adoption and fostering in our own backyard.
Yes, it's huge. It's huge. We're one of the largest adoption communities in the United States. West Michigan with Bethany Catholic Social Services and stuff. We're one of the largest in the United States. That's why we have such a huge population. And we also have a lot of churches stepping up now, Crossroads and Calvary and Catholic churches. Every church is stepping in to try to support families, especially who are taking on the role of parents for foster children, because not only foster children lose families, they are often traumatized. So they have an extra added challenge to overcome, and with those wounds some behaviors can result from that. So what I would say is, if somebody's going to adopt or somebody's going into foster children for even for adoption, would be that they educate you well now. They prepare you well. You take classes, you examine your heart, you go through and meet people, and sometimes, God calls us to something uncomfortable, and you just step up and you're uncomfortable until you get there and are comfortable again. So
Can you look these kids up 10 years from now and see how they're doing?
I kind of want to. I can tell you, when we met at the river a couple weeks ago with these 5 people who are in this book. Let's see, Hallie's a Cornerstone University. She's in her senior year. She and 5 or 6 other kids, African-American, adopted into a white family. Her story's in here, just the whole trauma piece of, race and some of that, but she also is like, all these are role models. They come back at this and they say, here's your hope. Here's what we did, and here's some encouragement, their brand of encouragement. So yeah, we've got athletes, We've got kids who are in IT, my own sons, anyone from Mercantile Bank, he's interviewing today for an IT specialist at Mercantile Bank. What else? Let's see, my other son is a bike mechanic in Ada at the bike shop, he's a hands-on kid.
Which bike shop?
Ada, Grand Rapids Bike Shop in Ada. Let's see, one works downtown here at Acrisure, that was, Logan. Their stories are beautiful. They're, you begin hard, you have some uncomfortable space, but God is saying every life is worth it, every single life. And it can be hard, but that's God's way, right? He didn't promise us anything was gonna be easy. And so these kids are a miracle.
Do our mission trips take us to orphanages? Do you ever?
In Haiti, we stayed in an orphanage.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we stayed, it was run by, she was, had been a Catholic, a nun, and, there are, orphanages all over.
Yeah.
They're very, very common.
Any questions, burning questions for Susan? Is it odd that, where are we, 25, 30, that no one in the room is, I mean, one out of how many would be considered an adopted person, do you know?
I don't know
Is it-
that statistic.
Would you expected one hand that's been adopted, or maybe just one?
Maybe.
We have an adopted dog
Okay,
Jeff.
yeah, that happened.
from Romania.
From Romania, does this resonate a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and after today, all of a sudden it'll come to, oh yeah, our next door neighbor or someone at church, and it's pretty common, it's kind of like that Dutch bingo or something, 1 in every 6.
So I have a question, you have all these books up here, you don't wanna take them home, do you?
I don't, and what I'm going to do is, now that I saw how you guys raise money, I'm gonna raise money for your cause. If anybody wants to buy a book, I'm gonna give all the money back to you guys. I just decided.
Well, thank you, I have
Wow.
a patient in Chicago, he has an adopted son and a foster son, who are 10 and 7 years old, I'm sure they would benefit. from
Yeah.
these books.
Parents would be
Yes.
great, and then they hold on to it. And we're not saying that you just like hand this book off to a kid and go, here, be thyself
Know the
healed.
parents First, yeah.
Goes to the parents, and sometimes we take post-it notes and we find a story that might resonate, and we go, okay, let's sit down and read this together. It's very tender,
I
and
think good discussion groups. Bob Snyder's question.
I'm curious, when you, informed your children, your adopted children, I'm not sure what age they were adopted. What was one of were they angry? Were they upset? Were they grateful? What was kind of the first responses?
they were too little. I would say they were as soon as we got him, not our 7.5-month-old. He was a baby, but I would say by 3, they knew pretty much everything we could tell them, but they weren't old enough to understand. So I would say the understanding. So I think there's 2 parts. They know their story when they're younger. They hit the teen years. That's when they feel it. So whether they feel thankful or hurt or angry or lost or just I'm happy and someday I'd like to meet my birth family. It's the whole range. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's kind of how it rolls.
What about the other 2 interviews? Were they of an older age to understand what they heard?
Most of them knew they were adopted all along. I would say all of them did. And then they started sensing and feeling more when they became teenagers.
So you use that in conversation versus we're gonna have a family talk tonight.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that's the way you wanna bring it up.
No, yeah.
I'm a little surprised, but.
Yeah, they always do, like, we would start out saying prayers for their birth family, or we would get out their albums, we had all the pictures, and we would look at albums, and, okay, that's so-and-so, and, yeah, so they always knew.
But you do hear of families that don't tell until.
Yeah, that's the part I would
Going
not
off to
recommend,
college, yeah.
because there are kids who find out later, and it derails them. Because they always thought, I thought it was this, and now I'm finding out I'm not, I'm something else. And so it's during that identity formation and that self-esteem formation that
Commercial, how much are your books?
Oh, I don't know. They're discounting today at this morning at 15. 15. I think in the store they're 18 or 19.
Okay.
And then I don't get it.
And you sign it?
I can sign if anyone wants it. I feel like I'm talking really fast. Sorry, I was trying to squeeze a lot in really fast.
We're right on top.
Susan, thank you very much. I mean, for me, it was terribly interesting. I shouldn't say terribly, tremendously interesting. To hear from a adoptee's point of view, you know, what they go through and having never experienced that and, knowing many
Next come the
patients
grandkids.
and kids that were adopted, but, rather than just hearing it from a parent who adopts children's point of view, but from the adoptees themselves. So a little memento, so you can remember us.
Oh,
You're
thank
drinking your
you.
coffee.
I love it. Thank you.
Come out here, get a book, get it signed, and
Ah,
thank you for taking the
yes,
time to
you're
be here
welcome.
and,
Thank you, everyone.
for
Nice
how that
meeting you.
we're related.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. Meeting in 2 weeks, the 19th. And